I just started, in fact, I teach in a elective area. I do business and some art classes, and I've taught for about 10 years in different capacities from 3rd grade, 2 different high schools. And in the last 10 years, I think I've had one time when I didn't have to develop a new course for a particular year. And last year, the new course was the digital media production class, and that was a full year course. So I had an advantage over UTED because I could not have to pare down so much as you have to. But nevertheless, it took a year to really develop it, and a lot of summertime to read through different things that people are doing and different activities. I just made a huge filing cabinet full of ideas that I could splice together as I went along. But I live I work in a district that's very rural. It's fairly poor. There's a high produced free lunch program. At least 40% of the district's parents are functionally illiterate. So you're sending report cards home and they're not able to read it. So you're trying to educate them children not only to read, but then media literacy. And the parents don't understand why that should be a focus. So after having gone through a year of developing the course and really dealing with some logistical problems and getting to know the equipment, how do the digital projectors work, how do the digital cameras work, how do we edit using Premiere, which is a little bit more complicated than the Mac version of the editing program. That was really overwhelming for me, and I think for my students, the learning curve on the equipment was fairly high too. So this year I'm going to try to infuse more of the media literacy throughout the year. I had to, by default, start with the media literacy because the grant we got came rolling in slowly, so the equipment was a month after the school year started. So I started with media literacy and then gradually moved into more of the equipment and the production. So this focus here, and I'm going to break this. So this focus is on a specific set of ideas that I've brainstormed for using a particular source that I became familiar with that I could implement next year. And the source is the Internet Archive at internetArchive.org, and specifically the Prollinger Archive, which Armin said that he's actually a personal friend of this gentleman who took some old footage. I assume he projected it and then recorded it.
No, actually, he used 16mm films.
Oh.
Gigantic balls.
So it's just a bunch of old footage that you can use to look at and analyze. So my goals basically are to introduce, identify, and apply the key questions and core principles of media literacy, while also trying to get students to develop digital editing skills on the computer, independently of working the camera, because that's a learning curve for them by themselves. So I wanted originally, and I talked with Cindy about this, to develop a set of video clips so students wouldn't have to do that. They could just take the clips and then splice them together to make a story and find out, well, how come the stories are different, who made what choices to put the stories together in different ways. And I realized about 10 seconds later that, boy, that's a lot of work to do in a week. It would be very difficult to come up with the select clips that would allow for variation in story, plot. So that's something I'll be working on. But in the meantime, I came up with these other ideas for taking videos that already exist and having students edit them without having to use the video cameras to capture their own. So these are some of the examples that I've clipped from the full movies at this site. And you can look at them and sort of think in terms of the media literacy questions that we've been talking about all week. What would you ask?
Oh yes, her name's Carolyn Ames. She's a swell kid. Why?
You know her?
Not very well. I wish I did. I don't know what it is, but there's something about her you like.
Well, she always looks nice to start with.
Yeah, especially when you compare her with some of the weird characters in this place.
Yoo-hoo!
Jenny thinks that she has the key to popularity, parking in cars with the boys at night.
That quote followed us through the rest of the year.
He learns that she dates all the boys, and he feels less important. What about Jenny?
In the interest of time, I'm
Does that
going
make her
to stop
really
that.
popular?
Oh my.
Are you ready for marriage?
No.
They're just loaded with.
What do you talk about on your dates?
Oh, movies and popular songs.
Orchestras? Dancing? Mary's chosen profession, engineering?
No, I don't understand any of it. I don't like to hear about it.
So, honey, I didn't know you felt that way.
And then I'm going to leave the camera when you can look at this on your own. Don't talk to strangers. I've modified it in a later slide, so I want to make sure we get a chance to see the opening. It starts a little bit slowly, but listen to the music and how that leads in to the subject. And we can also talk about the footage and how it was shot and what choices were made in terms of framing and different shots were used. This to me looks like an airport, not a schoolyard, but. A lot of different camera movements. She just sort of casually walks behind and takes down the lessons pile,
Oh
which is
my
a little
God.
kind of strange. Then she runs away.
Thank you, Fred.
So there's just a rich material source there. So some of the ideas they had: take the existing audio track from one of these and ask the students to find pictures that could go along with it, either from modern pictures or pictures that were from the archives themselves. But again, not having them create the picture. And then compare and contrast what you chose with what was actually on the site. And what does that mean in terms of your culture and what you've been brought up with? Does that